Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about Scepter's Abyss, everything you need to know, and some tips on the final fight against the big Grim Reaper looking guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. You know, there's a few things that you need to look out for. It's not a particularly difficult dungeon, and the footage you're seeing that I'm using in the background is of 2 people in the party at least 25 levels above the required level, so it was fairly easy and straightforward. I'm a pseudo tank in here. Usually I'm DPS, but it's just very lazy work for me. I'm just standing there in front of every enemy, just getting hit in the face while I'm hitting other things. But in the reality of your game, depending on what levels you've got in your party, you will probably need a healer and a proper tank if you're doing it at the same level as what the dungeon is. But before we get into it, I am giving away 1,000 Lucent, so make sure you hit the like button, subscribe and all that stuff, and hopefully you can get some money towards getting your battle passes or some other microtransactions that you want. But let's get into this. It's just going to be about the 3 kind of main bosses. Well, I say 2 main bosses and then there's like 1 sub boss. It's not too difficult at all. So what you're going to do, you're just going to start the dungeon, you're going to run in, there's going to be a whole lot of mobs that you can kill. You don't have to kill every single mob, but you know, you might as well while you're going through it. And you'll get through like to an area where there's a straight hallway with a whole bunch of enemies. At the end of this hallway is the Elite Archaeum Shadow Mancer. This is like your first sub boss and it's not particularly difficult, it just has a lot of health to take down while doing a bunch of different types of moves, all based around the same mechanic. As you get closer to the Shadow Mancer, you'll start to see when they're doing their moves, little black circles on the floor in all different directions. Sometimes it's all around the Shadow Mancer themselves. You just need to avoid these circles. That is the main mechanic. Wherever they're placed, whichever direction they're going in, just dodge them and run out of the way of them. They can fear, I believe, but don't quote me on that, but they do damage as well. So just avoid the circle, which is funny because later on you're not going to want to avoid the circle, you want to stand in the circle, but we'll get into that. This boss, you know, it's not hard, like I said, it just takes a while. If you're all the same level as the Shadow Mancer, it can take a decent amount of time to get the health down. But that's it, that's the first little sub boss. Very simple. Now as you leave the Shadow Mancer, you're going to get to a fork in the road where there's a left hand room and a right hand room. You can choose either way you want. You can split up into a team, you can all 6 go one way, but essentially in each of these rooms is a lever in the middle of the room which you need to pull. What these levers do is basically open the next boss room's door, but you have to have both of them pulled, because if you pull one, the gates will open, but there'll still be like toxin fire thing inside. So if you step inside, you just start burning. You need to run over to the other side of the fork in the road, whichever one you chose, go the other way and use the lever there too. It will open up the other gate, and then all the things inside that can burn you and kill you won't be there anymore. When you enter this room, you want to turn away from the boss and you want to start killing all the little enemies around the edge. The boss won't get aggroed, but if the boss does get aggroed and they're also there and you're at the same level as the boss, it can become quite frustrating. So you want to make sure that the room's cleared out before you engage with the boss. This boss is the Elite Archaeum Riot Squad Captain. He's got a big shield and a sword, and he's basically a tank. He also has a lot of health. Most of his moves are directed to people directly in front of him. So if you're tanking him, you're going to have most of the aggro most of the time. But what he can do are these charge attacks, which basically, if you don't block them perfectly, he'll knock you across the map, he'll knock you into walls and stuff, and just make life just a bit more difficult. You want to tank him towards the side of the room that he spawns in, because if he gets too far away from where he spawned, he'll run back and get all his health back and you'll have to start the fight over again. It's a weird thing where he's only got a certain range and then he decides, oh, they're not here anymore, I'm going back to the point. What I would suggest here, if you have a couple of great swords, just keep stunning them over and over and over again. Just keep stunning him and keep him stun locked. If you've got 3, I think you can kind of space it apart, like 5 seconds between each stun, and then everyone's getting their cooldowns in time. Very easy to control, but can get out of control if you're not doing certain things. A healer is probably recommended here if you are on the same level. I don't necessarily think you need a tank here, but it definitely does help. But you know, just DPS down and just avoid the big slams on the floor that he does with his big sword. You'll see like a whole bunch of mess comes up from under the floor underneath him where he slaps his where he slams his sword down. The tank, the person, me like here being a DPS with that's higher level, you know, I'm gonna take that damage quite easily. But you know, that's just what it is. It's just a brawl. You just get in there and get stuck in, just get face to face and start whacking him. I've usually killed this squad captain so quick that I don't know if he's got any kind of real bad moves, like really crazy mechanics. For me, it just seems like a fight to the death type situation. You just stand in front of each other, beating the hell out of each other. So yeah, just keep an eye out for any other mechanics. I personally haven't seen them, but the fight doesn't really go on for that long when I have been in there. But the real reason we are here is for the final boss, the Grim Reaper, the Heliber, Guide of the Abyss. This fight at level is fairly difficult because there's a mechanic in here that's pretty confusing that people don't understand. As I said earlier on, you want to avoid those circles on the floor. In this fight, you want to do the complete opposite. If you see a circle on the floor around one of your teammates, everyone has to get in that circle and stand on top of them. It's going to do two things. If you are standing in there, you cannot be feared. If you are outside of it, the boss will fear you and you'll lose control and you'll run all over the place, which can be problematic. Also, what it prevents is everyone standing on top of one person. You will split the damage of the hit between all of you. If you are just a solo person and no one jumps in this circle with you, at level, you are probably going to be dead. So you want to make sure that you are in that circle. The rest of the fight is just basically keeping an eye on where the boss is teleporting. So the boss will usually teleport away and do a big slam into the floor in like a little cone shaped. You don't want to be in line with this boss. So whenever you see the boss teleport, you want to turn your camera and roll away from him, whether back towards the opposite way where you're out of the range of the length of it, or roll to the side so you're out of the width of the cone. You'll see this as you're doing it. I can't give you like an actual like a measurement, but the more you play it, the more you'll see it. You just want to either be away from it lengthwise or widthwise. It will then teleport again and do the same thing. So if you are the tank or you're like a close range DPS and you start hitting him and he teleports, you don't really have to move because it's going to teleport straight back to you after and do it again. You just have to make sure that on the second one, you're out of the way. And the only other mechanic in this fight, which is very, very important, is the guarding defensive move that you need to do. This is indicated by a purple circle that comes on the screen, and the purple circle on the outside gets smaller and meets the purple circle on the inside. If you are defending when these two circles meet, you will block the majority of the damage. If you decide to do your defense as they touch each other, you'll get a perfect block, which is what you ideally want in any kind of combat situation in this game. But specifically with this boss, it's going to help you quite a lot. Those are the three main mechanics. You want to make sure you're blocking and defending when you can, especially if you're a close range DPS or tank. Hopefully you've got a healer here as well, so that's pretty good. You want to avoid the cone scythe attacks that they do when they're teleporting. And most importantly is when you see that circle on the floor surrounding one of your teammates, you need to jump into it. Even if you are not communicating with people, usually most people are standing still, so you can run and jump in. You just have to keep an eye out for when that circle appears. At level, the damage to this boss will take a long time. If you're 5 levels above, 10 levels above, it's going to be a fairly okay fight for you. If you're anything higher than that, it's going to be fairly easy. So I hope this helped you with this boss and this dungeon, because I know when I first did it, I was a bit just like, what the hell is going on? It's actually probably, well, I mean, not just the lowest level, it's actually the easiest in terms of mechanics. The next few like dungeons and stuff get a lot more crazy, which I'm going to talk about in a video tomorrow. But yeah, I hope this helped you beat the Heliber, or what's it? It was a Heliber. It's got to be Heliber. So yeah, thank you for watching. I've been easynow. You guys have been awesome.